just like to answer the woman at the front point when she said, what happens when we need help? Do you mean when we need help paying our Sky TV bill? Do you know what I mean? People are literally dying on the streets in the gutters out there, and at the end of the day, it's...
Well, we'll ask it. What's your answer?
I'm not talking about the people when they're paying the Sky bills. I'm talking about the people that are in England that are homeless, and we're like sending money abroad for people that are in exactly the same situation as what it is in Britain. You know, if you've got a Sky TV and you can't pay your bill, that's your problem. Do you know what I mean? If I've got a Sky bill, I'll pay my Sky bill. I don't ask for any help to pay my bills.
Who are you thinking of when you say the money shouldn't be going abroad?
Well, when they're turning around and saying about the money going abroad, every country's got its own government and its own people that are in charge of their own country. And it always seems to be, in a sense, that our country is always there, handing out millions and millions of pounds. And it's always forgetting about our people. It's forgetting about the schooling, it's forgetting about the health, it's forgetting about hospitals. It does do. It does do.
All right.
When the MRSA come into it, like how many children went into hospital and they came out with MRSA? There was children dying. Hospitals in England should be clean, not going into hospitals and coming out with loads more diseases and illnesses.
All right, thank you very much. The man at the back there on the gangway. Yes, you sir.
I've spent the last 40, 50 years working on development aid all over the world for all organisations, including DEFRA, or DFID as it was. I see a lot of corruption. I see a lot of misuse of aid. I see aid given for buildings which fall down 2 years later because there's no contingency there to maintain them. I see lots of equipment being given with no spare parts and no local training for the people to maintain and use that equipment. And I see equipment worth $20,000, $30,000 sitting there for want of a spare part worth about £5. Because there is no hard cash there to buy that spare part, and they don't have the wherewithal to maintain it, because that training is not given when we give the piece of equipment. Would you please comment?
So what's your comment on that? You've heard the argument between how aid should be given and whether it should be given at all and whether it should be given in cash. What's your view with all your experience?
If you give aid, then you must give them the wherewithal to maintain whatever you're giving them. You cannot just give cash away.
Okay.
I agree.
And
you're right.
The man in the middle there. Yes.
Perhaps the point is being missed, especially when you compare Britain to India. They're two very different countries, and there's people starving here, and there's still colossal government waste. And the point that's just been made there, what we need to do is stop this somewhat outdated system where we just dole money out to governments. And you've got to give people the means to take it into their own hands through perhaps microcredit schemes where you can give people small loans, set up their own business, become self-sufficient, and not simply give it to third world governments to embezzle, which seems to be happening now.
You are absolutely right. Can I just say, you have summed up in what you've just said exactly what we're trying to do. And as I said earlier, the clue's on the tin. We don't call it overseas aid, we call it international development. And the whole point is we don't just give a bung to corrupt governments. We're very, very strict on what happens, and we will not give budget support to governments we don't trust. We will give it to programmes which lift some of the poorest people out of poverty.
Please just explain to me how that squares with a country that can spend £10 billion on jet fighters from France, pay for a Grand Prix, have a space programme and more billionaires than us, and you give them their money.
Because I will say it one more time, there are more of the poorest people in the 3 states of India than there are in all of sub-Saharan Africa. And you can ignore them if you want and just leave it to India,
but France give them £18 million a year.
Let me just finish. Again, you're linking it to contracts, which we don't do. We're in the business of trying to stop children dying and to try and make sure that a country can fend for itself in the years to come. That's the development bit. We're not there just to say, we're Britain, here's the dosh, get on with it. That is not what we do.
But India should be doing it. For their
They
own.
are doing a lot for themselves. They can't cope with absolutely everything. Now, you can take away their communication systems, you can take away a lot of their infrastructure and say, only spend your money on the very, very poor. But that will retard the development we are trying to assist
All
with
right.
and steer.
The woman
That's
there in the third row from the back.
Yeah, this point that Digby keeps raising, that just because India have a space program, we shouldn't be giving them international aid, is absolutely absurd. For every dollar America spent on their space program, they gained $45 back from diversified industries and new technologies. We should be glad that India are investing in things and new industries for their future. And we should be happy that they're putting this money to good use. And I fully support everything that Alan Duncan's saying here.
All right. Emma Boone, do you want to come back on the point?
I think that the issue here, and as the gentleman at the back raised the point that he's worked in aid for a number of years, and you know, there are a lot of difficulties with the aid programmes that we're running abroad. Taxpayers want to see value for money, and taxpayers do not mind their money going to help the world's poorest where they are getting that value. And I hope that if Alan Duncan says that they are working towards getting better value out of that aid for taxpayers, that that's what we're going to do. But I still believe that the right thing to do would be to freeze the aid budget at the moment.
Everything we spend, you can see on the website, and you can scrutinise it as toughly as your organisation wishes, because all of the information is there, and the best argument to keep us doing what we should be doing is the transparency we've offered in full to
Why
the
are you
world.
so hostile to the Taxpayers Alliance?
Because I think they jump to conclusions and throw lots of quotations into the papers as rent-a-quote without getting their facts right. And I don't think that's right.
You recognise this picture?
Well, I think if we're annoying people and standing up for taxpayers' money, then we're probably doing something right.
You're not